لو كان سلعة تباع لبذلت فيه الأموال العظام أو صعد في السماء لسمت إليه نفوس الكرام.
There's something that I wanted to finish off with, and it's from, and I was talking to you about before we started recording, and it was from the lesson yesterday with Sheikh Muhammad Al-Farih bin Fahad Al-Farih, who is the teacher, like I said earlier, in the Mahl al-Qida, which is the higher studies. And he was going over Lum'atul Itiqad, Al-Hadi ila Sabil al-Rashad of Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi, rahimahullah ta'ala, who died in the year 620. And it was the end part that was very interesting to me. He really, mashallah, he did a very beautiful explanation at the end. The whole explanation was good. He started after Asr, and he finished after Isha, like maybe a half an hour to an hour after Isha. And he finished the book, alhamdulillah. And the last part was very, very nice. So I want to just read just a little small part from it. Yani, if it's okay with you?
Yeah, of course.
So he says, and this is Ibn Qudama, he says, وَمِنَ السُنَّةِ, and from the sunnah, right? And when he's saying sunnah here, sunnah can be synonymous with the i'tiqad, yani the belief, Islam, as our scholars say. So Islam and sunnah can be synonymous. So it says, هِجْرَانُ أَهْلِ الْبِدْعَةِ, yani to boycott or stay away from أهل البدعة. Sheikh Muhammad mentioned about this part, and I think this part right here was very important because we're living in a social media era, right? Where nowadays, boycotting people isn't just like the night times you stay away from them in the local neighborhood, right?
Yeah, physically.
The local community, physically. He's saying in this time and day and age with the digital era, right? Boycotting them would be not following them or subscribing to their YouTube channel, because we're on YouTube right now, not following them on Twitter, not following what they're saying and what took place of what they're doing now and watching their videos, etc.
The status.
Their statuses. This will be hijranu ahl al-bid'ah. So if you're a person who ascribes yourself to the sunnah, which we all ascribe ourselves to sunnah in Islam, the proper Islam, then we know that hijran ahl al-bid'ah is something which is from the principles of the sunnah, meaning staying away from and boycotting.
So basically, says, you might have, and it's true, akhi, subhanAllah, sometimes you have brothers who on the outside, they'll pray with Ahl Sunnah, and they'll socialize with Ahl Sunnah, and they'll avoid Ahl Bid'ah in real life, like you've mentioned.
Yeah.
But on their phones, they're like out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Hey, let's see what this guy said.
Exactly.
Let's see what that guy said.
100%.
Subscribe to this guy.
Exactly.
They might even make like a fake Twitter account
to follow them and
to just follow these kind of people. Akhi, you're not doing hijran Ahl Bid'ah.
Exactly.
You know, even if you're doing real life, you are. Allah understand.
And if you think
it's a door to misguidance,
if you think that's not affecting you, it is.
It is.
This is why this has been established for us to protect ourselves, because it will affect you over time. Some of the Salaf, they wouldn't even listen to Quran recitation of Ahl
They
Bid'ah.
put their hands in their ears.
Put their hands in their ears to listen. Subhanallah.
So
going on, he says, وَمُبَايَنَتُهُمْ, and to separate from them, meaning it's connected to the hijran, right? وَتَرْكُ الْجِدَالُ وَالْخُصُومَاتِ فِي الدِّينِ. Right, and this is also very important in this day and age. So separating from them, we already talked about, right? That goes with the boycotting them and separating them, staying away from them, like we said in the social media era. And tarakul jidal wal khusumat fi din, meaning leaving off argumentation, right, and diving into back and forth in the religion. This is very important because this right here is the asl of jidal. And we talked about this on the podcast, 2 podcasts, I think. One with Dr. Abdullah when he was on, and another one with Ahmed when he was on. And they talked about this as well, which is now we're seeing it's becoming very popular on social media to go in a back and forth with someone in a religion. And this is not from the minhaj of Ahl Sunnah. This would be something that you stay away from unless it's in particular situations where particular people of knowledge would do it in a certain way. So he mentioned a story about Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala, when he was giving lessons in the Haram in Mecca, and he said someone, had approached him, or either he said approached him or stood up, saying that he wanted to, go back and forth with him about something he was teaching, something he's like, this is wrong, and he wanted to go back and forth, and he said, Tayyib, ta'al al-maktab, come to the office.
Yeah.
In showing that we're not going to do this in front of people. If you got some type of, you're disgruntled about something that I'm teaching or that I'm putting forth, then we'll talk about it behind closed doors, not in front of the people, to not spread no type of shubahat or no misunderstandings in us.
Akhi, subhanAllah, you bring up a very important point, wallahi, and honestly, we have to cover this in more detail, which is this bab of argumentation religion. Why do I say this? Because you find that these individuals who are ignorant of the sunnah, who are upon misguidance, they'll go out on YouTube and they'll be like, I challenge you, Madkhalis, to come and debate with me. And then they try to frame it as if that if these Madkhalis, or whatever they like to call it, they do not come and debate me, is because of their fear or their cowardice or because I'm upon the truth. Nah. People of sunnah not debating with you is from the sunnah.
Exactly.
We're implementing the sunnah because it's not from the religion to debate about religion. This thing that you have made as your profession, that your profession is to go on YouTube and debate the people about religion, it itself is an innovation. And now you want us to partake in your mukhalaf of the sunnah and to come and debate with you on YouTube, fall into that same trap that you fell into out of your ignorance? Abadan.
No.
That's why a man came to, I think it was Imam Malik, and said, I want to debate you.
No.
Malik said, okay, what if you win, or you win the debate? Or he said, no, what if I win? He said, I'll follow you. Okay, what if you win? He said, you will follow me. He said, okay, what if a third guy comes and he beats both of us in debate? He said, we'll follow them. He said, bro. He said, go. If you're in doubt about your religion, I'm not. And he said, if every time someone comes who is more eloquent than the other, we follow him and leave that which Jibril brought to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam because of his eloquence and because of his ability and his if you like
capability to speak,
his capability to speak and argue, because he studied in Harvard and Oxford and whatever, and he knows how to debate people. Is that the religion? So you're going to leave the Quran and the Sunnah and the Hadith because this guy beat him in a debate? This understanding, akhi, wallahi, we have to touch on it and we have to clarify it in more detail, because unfortunately this is the understanding that a lot of people have on YouTube. They think it's a showdown between debaters. Even not just religion. Sometimes they debate about court proceedings. This guy is in court. There's a judge. There's a lawyer. Both sets of lawyers. You've got witnesses. You've got proof. You don't know what's happening in the courthouse. You don't know what the evidence are. And then now you want to do a whole YouTube, if you like, debate. This person's innocent, that person is guilty.
What's even worse, people driving into court cases that's happening in Muslim lands under a Muslim ruler, under a Muslim judge, in a place where they're applying Sharia. So if that's the case, we're going to go and proceed the ruler and say, so-and-so is innocent because kida, or so-and-so is guilty because of kida. And then the verdict comes out and says, he's actually innocent. And you say, he's still guilty.
Oh, because Allah said,
we do not follow the proceedings. We don't follow the Sharia of the Allah.
To the extent, akhi, some people, they are actually propagating this amongst Salafiyun. Things like, wallahi, this is dangerous. This, wallahi, is the way of the Khawarij.
This is very dangerous. Very, very dangerous, akhi. What's the point of us having a community with a Wali al-Amr?
A judge.
And a judge appointed by the Wali al-Amr if we're not going to listen to the things in which are being established upon Kitab al-Sunnah?
I've heard somebody say that basically this is the hukum of Allah. The hukum of Allah is that whoever does this is his hukum. We're gonna follow the hukum of Allah. Ya akhi, هذه شبهة الخوارج. This is what the Khawarij came to Ali with.
100%.
There's no difference.
That's the exact shubha.
Ya akhi, the hukum of Allah is one thing.
Came to Ali and said, what? You're not applying the ruling of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala.
Subhanallah.
They believe they can apply it better.
And then Ibn Abbas said to them, okay, how about, he brought some ijtihad issues regarding things. But point being that the hukum of Allah is one thing. Applying it to an individual is something else.
100%.
Allah said whoever does this and this is his hukum. What's the judge's role in that? Yani, if the hukum of Allah was clear, why do you have courtrooms? Well, what's the point of a judge anyway? What's his work? If the hukum of Allah is clear. The judge's job is to listen to both parties and to determine, number one, if what this person is being accused of is true or not. And number two, even if it is true what he's being accused of, if the shurut are there, the conditions, and there are no mawani'.
Exactly.
Because there are sometimes things that stand in between a hukum being applied. Person could be majnoon, person could be whatever. There could be certain things,
Sahih.
right? It could be the shubha, whatever.
It's clear.
There's
yeah.
mawani'.
Clear. Yes.
So the judge, he looks at all of these things. He looks at the evidences, what everybody's got to say. Then he comes with a hukum.
Exactly.
But for you, before the judge even gives a hukum,
Or even worse, after the judge gives a hukum, and now you're saying,
and then now you're saying this person is guilty because the hukum of Allah, wallahi wa billah, this is the way of the Khawarij.
Akhi, to go back to the point is that we don't dive into this. Like, it's not for us to dive into this particular mas'ala when there's.
This has to, akhi, the point of argumentation, generally speaking, in religion, yes, that's something we have to dedicate a podcast to, inshallah.
A connection to this also that the Shaykh was mentioning that I want to talk on was he mentioned the benefit of Aisha radiallahu anha when Mu'adha came to her and she was saying why is it that we make up the prayer, or why do we make up the fasting but don't make up the prayer? And then Aisha, she turned to her and said, what she say?
No, I'm saying Hururiyya to the end.
Exactly. She said, are you from the Hururiyya? Are you amongst these people who were known as the Khawarij at the time?
Yeah, their name was, they used to call them Haruriyya because they emanated from a place called Harura.
Exactly. So after that, what did Mu'adha say? She said, La, ana as'al. She's only asking, right? She's not from them, right? So Sheikh Muhammad, he brought a very interesting benefit from this, which I was telling you before the podcast. I haven't heard it previously, which is that, because again, we don't go into khusumat and we stay away from, and we boycott the people of bid'ah, and we don't we separate from them completely. The benefit from her saying that answer shows us that she knew who they were. She knew who this sect was, to the point she didn't ask, who are that? Who's that? What are you talking about? That she knew who they were. She knew them to be upon the methodology of the Khawarij, which led her to completely separate from the beginning. So he says this is the importance of us, not only us knowing it, teaching the people, etc., but also teaching our families this, teaching the women, teaching our children, etc., the understanding of the sunnah and how this to be applied. Obviously, when like we said about rulings, it ain't for us to go and play up rulings on people. This is for the scholars.
I got a question for you, Akhi, now.
No.
So was Aisha name calling? Like they say.
Yeah, some people would say that. They would say that, right?
It's not name calling.
Of course she's not. Of course
they
she's
were
not.
called Haruriyya. That was their label. Like we mentioned in the podcast before.
To separate, because they now have been ascribed to the country from which they emanated. No.
And sometimes Ahl Bid'ah are ascribed to the person who innovated it. No. And sometimes they're ascribed to whatever they're ascribed to. But the point is, yes, Ahl Bid'ah used to be labeled by the companions radiallahu anhum before us.
Exactly. Barakallah fi.
It's not name calling.
Okay, I want to just finish this before we go on, because I think this podcast is turning into a bit long, huh?
Okay, we're meant to have an hour one today, man.
Yeah, it's getting long. Let me finish this. وَتَرْكُ النَّظَرِ فِي كُتُبِ الْمُبْتَدِعَةِ, which we already talked about, which is not looking into the books of the innovators. وَإِصْغَاءِ إِلَى كَلَامِهِمْ وَكُلُّ مُحْدَثَةٍ فِي الدِّينِ بِدْعَةٍ. And every innovation in the religion is a bid'ah. And this is something also I want to talk on that was very important, right? And he says that everyone who labels themselves, right, with other than the name of Islam and the Sunnah, the names that comes in Islam and Sunnah, that's mubtadi', and this is an innovator, right? So this is important. Why? Because anyone who names themselves, takes on other names but other than Islam and the Sunnah, then this is a innovator. Why is this important? Because now we're living in a day and age, right, where people are taking on names and different groups, call it whatever you like, whether it be I'm attributing myself to the feminist movement, I'm attributing myself to the red pill movement, I'm attributing myself to whatever the case may be, right? But it's not found in the Quran and the Sunnah. Then Ibn Qudama, this isn't me, this isn't, Muhammad, the Wali, this isn't, just some students speaking. This is the Salaf, this is how they understood it. That this was a bid'ah. This is innovation. Why? Because we attribute ourselves to Islam, the body of the Muslims, right? This person would be an innovator. And then he goes on to mention different people or different groups who attribute themselves to other than the Quran and Sunnah, كالرافضة والجهمية والخوارج والقدرية والمرجئة إلى آخره. But I thought that was very important and definitely something that needed to be mentioned, I think, because nowadays we find this a lot, especially on YouTube. People attribute themselves to different rhetorics and methodologies and groups, which Allah Ta'ala,
Bandis, Tabligis,
Yeah,
we have a
which-
whole list in our times
exactly,
as well.
which
No.
Allah Ta'ala didn't bring any type of legislation regarding these type of names and attributes.
No.
Barakallah fiik. I think that's a good place to stop.